It's been almost 2 years since I wanted to change my two A7S3s to an FX6. And since I got my FX3 in January, I felt a little bit more push than before because I just realized how much the ergonomics and the features with the LUTs add to the usability in my case. So I started advertising my old cameras, and I even sold a Gen 1 2470 G Master because I wanted to get the second one. And I just sold my second camera, which was the last one. I sold the lens first, and then my second A7S3 sold about a month ago. And then just this past weekend, I sold the last one. And on Sunday, I scored this FX6. And I think this bundle is exactly what I was looking for almost 2 years. I wasn't looking for anything crazy, but I wanted an FX6 that's clean, possibly a V-mount that is not the Tilta version, and maybe some small accessories. And so what I got is this exact kit. I got an FX6, and then he messaged me and said that he also has a 2470 GM2, and he would bundle that in for $1,500 if I take both. And I just couldn't say no because I sold my 2470 last year for $1,250. So I still had the cash because I never bought a Gen 2 yet, so I only had to put in $250 essentially to upgrade from the Gen 1 to the Gen 2. And all these came with boxes. They looked pretty new. And so this is the FX6 with the 2470 GM2 already attached. This is exactly how I picked it up from him. I did have to drive 3.5 hours from where I am because I wanted to meet in person. He also wanted to meet in person, and that was the only option that he could offer me. But I was still okay with it because it was a Sunday, and this is what I planned. So I got this FX6, which is obviously a standard FX6 with the 2470 G Master 2. He also gave me two 320 gigabyte CF Type A cards that I currently have in the camera as a dual. And then he also gave me one Angelbird 1 terabyte. This is the famous one that's been discontinued, and a lot of people are still asking for it to come back. And because it's only one, I may not even keep this because I always dual record everything. And if it's one, it's none. So I can't really use this unless I find a used one myself, or I sell this for somebody who can use it, and I'll just live with my 320s. And I have 160s for my FX3 and A7S3s that I used before. So I'll have some spares because now I only have two cameras, this one and the FX3. He also had wooden camera top plate for this, but he said he doesn't really like it. And if I look at this, it actually looks brand new. I don't even see a single mark where any attachment was even added to it. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna use this, but we're gonna get to the why. He also had a wooden camera Anton Bauer V-mount plate. Now this I am using. So this is not the Tilta one, so you can still use the battery that's built into, well, not built in, but the original batteries that came with the camera. Either this BP U35, which is the small one that comes with the camera, but he also gave me this BP U70, which is a 72 watt hour, much beefier version. So the original one does totally hide in the camera. It does not stick out, while this one does, but both works with the V-mount handle or the V-mount battery holder. I'm gonna open this now and show you, because just gonna make sure not to lose the small screws. And this is an Anton Bauer collaboration with wooden camera. So it is a very beefy and well-made V-mount plate with an integrated converter for the 19.5 volts that the camera needs. So you attach it with these two screws to the back of the body, and then it sticks out even behind the long V-mount. As you can see here, it does clear it perfectly. And this V-mount plate is also adjustable. So if you loosen this, you can actually raise the plate and then even have it tilted like that. So technically, I can raise it up and have the battery up here, so the balance is slightly different and still have access to this, especially if you want to open the card door, because you can only really reach this if this is not in the way. And this is one of my small rig batteries. I'm just going to use this for testing for this plate. When I attach it, it does come with two tiny screws. Well, not tiny, but short one and a long one. One screw is pretty tiny, yes, but the other one is actually really long. Like, look how long this is. This is a very long screw, and it goes like all the way deep into the camera body. So we're gonna attach this in a moment and see what that feels like. I'm gonna take off as much as I can from the camera to save some weight, because I haven't really, like, I've never actually used an FX6 before or built it, so I'm not as familiar with it. So with the memory cards, he also gave me one of the memory card readers, which is the Sony one for CF Express Type A and SD cards, but I already had one. So I even told him that, like, hey, I already got one, but because he was gonna sell this whole bundle and didn't want to really deal with it, he just gave it to me on top of everything essentially at the end, because he just didn't want to deal with posting and, you know, dealing with people on Facebook and stuff. I've got obviously the V-mount holder that I'm gonna attach in a second, and then we also have the top plate, but we're not gonna use the top plate from Wooden Camera, because he also had something else that wasn't part of the actual original discussion or even the listing. So he brought all the stuff that he had for his FX6 that he wanted to get rid of, and he had this bright Tangerine AXL kit. And if you don't know what bright Tangerine is, it's a really high-end third-party manufacturer for camera accessories, almost like Wooden Camera. But their top plate is a little bit different design than the Wooden Camera one, and I've had my eye on this, but these things are really expensive. This kit that's here is $1,000 if you want to buy it, and this is only the top plate and the AXL that converts the original monitor into almost like a viewfinder without like having the viewfinder lens, but the adjustability and stuff is way better and it extends out way more. Plus, you can strengthen the top handle with the included bracket. So what I'm probably going to end up doing is I'm going to put the bright Tangerine top handle, or not top handle, top plate on, which also has NATO rails on both sides. So these are actual NATO rails, so you can attach other accessories that are not just 1/4 or 3/8. It also has a PL mount bracket on the front. So if you get a PL mount adapter, you can add that to the front to make sure that the mount is secured and holds the weight, not just on the E-mount itself. We're also going to add a standard Manfrotto or Sackler plate, which is actually the original plate from this tripod that's currently shooting these videos. I have two of these Active 8s, and so this is the plate that I want to use for now, because I don't have a base plate with rods for this. So I'm not sure if I missed anything with the two batteries, the SD cards or CF Express cards, the V-mount plate, the top plate from both manufacturers. But as you can see, the camera is very, very top heavy, so it always tilts. So one option is to add the bigger battery in, and it's mostly good. It will mostly stay flat, but if you put the lens hood on, or if you fold this out to the front position, it will also start tipping to the front. So it isn't the perfect solution. And because we're actually installing the bright Tangerine top plate, we have to remove the audio top handle and this whole shenanigans with the monitor. So the monitor also has this sunshade. This is the original Sony sunshade that it just opens and closes, but it is removable. So you can just undo the clips and take it off and just put it away. So we're probably going to go ahead with that right now, because when you install the top plate, you have to take the top handle off, because this top plate has a closed end on both sides, while this one, the wooden camera one, you can see only has one closed end. So this you can just slide on and secure, but this one you can't, because the branding and the PL mount screws are located on the front. Let me just take off the viewfinder completely from this plastic mount, because that's one of the probably the weakest points of this whole camera, is that this whole like plastic mount is just not great. Obviously you can mount it to any position, but it's just not really as good. So we're going to keep the monitor, and the monitor will be used, yes, but it needs some modification. And some of these parts, these tiny parts, will also have to be taken off, because on this side, when you look at it, this is the focus distance marker. So if you want to use a string or something, that's where the sensor is. And then this is for cables. Now this top plate has a mount to relocate these both. So after installation, you can actually attach that. The only thing is I have to get some small tools to be able to take those tiny, tiny screws out, because Sony is using very tiny screws. So I'm just going to grab my iFixit kit, and we're going to figure out what do we actually need. So one is a flat head. That's easy to do. We're going to be able to take that out very easily, and then just screw it into the tiny hole over here. Yes, that's done. Now for this, I am actually going to remove the grip and the lens and everything to make this a little bit easier. Oh, and I also forgot that it also came with a bag. So for all of this, I got this Tenba Cinelux Backpack 21, which is technically a backpack carry-on, but it's also a camera bag. So this, like, everything fits in here, and I'm pretty sure my FX3 will also fit next to it. So now we have a much, much more compact body. We're gonna remove the battery too, and then remove the top handle, which is very easy to do. Just screw it off and then pull it out. Yeah, so let's see. I need, I think, a small Phillips head for this. Yes, so there's a small Phillips head screw in there. So I'm gonna go with probably a 0. And yes, that actually is the perfect. So, and this one can be mounted in multiple places because it has these little slots on the top of the body, but we're gonna go exactly where it goes on the side of the cage, but facing up, not down. So if I'm correct, this, okay, so if I do it this way, then actually I am running into an issue already, because you're not going to be able to use the NATO rail if this is facing up. So in order for this to work as a NATO rail, you have to face it down. So let me see what it looks like if I switch it to the down position, because then it may be in the way for the handle. So you line up these screws into the holes with the 1/4 holes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're gonna obviously attach it. You need a 4mm Allen key for this. So this might work. It looks like it is not that much in the way. If I attach this, yeah, that's fine. That's gonna clear, no problem. So let me take that back off, and let me actually like tighten this down. I probably should have brought a brush and clean the body a little bit, because there is some dust on it, especially on this part, this bright tangerine part. There's some dust in the little crevices, but it's fine. I probably will have to take this apart at least one more time, so we're gonna cross tighten all the screws, but not too crazy, just a little bit. So this is what the camera body looks like with the bright Tangerine attached. It does overhang a little bit, as you can see, and this is where you would attach the PL mount, but all the buttons are still accessible, and we got NATO rails on both sides, and these safety pins are also there for all the NATO rail products, so you don't actually like actually drop the camera or something. So now we have this squared away. We should be able to put the top handle back, because you always need the top handle if you are doing any audio with the camera. There's no other audio inputs on the FX6, which is probably one of its biggest flaws from what I've seen. And yes, you can use a 4mm Allen wrench for these screws to tighten them down if you don't want any movement. Don't overdo it, obviously, but a little bit of a quarter turn can help. So now we have a FX6 body with a bright Tangerine top. The camera is sitting on a plate, which does help with the camera standing way more stable. So let's see, this is very good so far. It does have a very good feel. Let's continue. I want to add this plate. This is the hard one, because you need also obviously a flathead screwdriver for this, and I'm probably have to upgrade to a number 1 on this one. But these are still kind of tiny screws compared to like a 1/4 or a 3/8. So it's very surprising, but this one is very deep. So let me raise this up a little bit. You're gonna have to drop it into this, and it sticks out only a little bit. So that's a very interesting design choice. But he said that he never felt like this is gonna break, and I actually never had anybody say anything online either that like these wooden camera plates are not safe to use because they'll rip the thread out from your camera or something. So I'm just gonna go ahead and trust it, and then we can revisit this later if something happens. Now, obviously these are non-magnetic screws, but we're gonna start with the side one. I'm not gonna actually over tighten it until this one is also lined up into the back. And then hopefully I can get it going. Yep. So I'm gonna give it a little bit of a tightness here, and then a little bit of a tightness here. Yeah, that feels actually really solid to me. So, and with the cable, all you gotta do is come to this side and plug it into this plug right here. Now, if you want to make this look pretty nice, I'll probably suggest to run it across this gap and go from the top so the cable does not stick down to the bottom, and do it like this, where it's like doing this nice loop. Now, obviously these doors are non-removable on this camera, so they'll be a little annoying and just hang here. So you don't have any options. This is the multi and remote port, which is something you're probably never gonna use. The only one I'm gonna use is TC, because I want to run timecode, and SDI out, and HDMI. So those are up here, that's fine. So you can check to make sure your TC switches on the input. We're gonna grab a tentacle sync shortly and pop it up on top, because I actually have the BNC cable for it. So this is the way that you can power the camera with a V-mount. And this one actually has 3 D-taps that I can see, 3 different D-taps, 2 on this side, and then 1 on the very top. So let's see, I'm gonna go back and lock this, and I'm gonna grab my V-mount and test it. So if I attach it, and this should wake up. And I should be able to turn the camera on. Yeah, that is actually true. And I'm getting power because the camera is on, even though there's no monitors or anything. I am getting power through this. So there is no indicator light on this V-mount plate that there's actually something happening. So you only know it by knowing that the camera is getting power and the light is on. So I'm going to turn it off. and then remove this battery for now because we're still in the process of building, and the bright Tangerine stuff is way more exciting than just the battery plate. But the camera already feels like it's getting a little bit of life to it, and it feels more balanced because I'm getting weight on the back, so if we attach the lens, it is going to be much easier to balance the camera in handheld use. So let me show you guys what's in this package from the bright Tangerine stuff. I haven't actually seen this other than checking out on the website, and he did show me on our meeting to like briefly show me how to actually assemble it. So the important pieces are here. This piece we're not going to use. This is the top plate filler piece. So if you don't use the top handle on this camera, if you don't use this, you can actually put this in the middle and use your own top handle that's NATO rail, but then you lose audio. I don't think he even used this because this looks new and it comes in the same packaging as with the branding and everything. So this one will stay and probably will be sold. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use these pieces. And as far as I know, you do actually have to make one small modification to the Sony monitor. So on the back of it, this piece needs to be replaced by this piece, which also has a cable hook, which essentially forces this cable to always go in one direction. I am not sure exactly why at the moment, but we're gonna figure it out in a minute because I'm gonna do it. So we need to go back and grab our trusty 0-bit because this one has a tiny, tiny screw here too. So we're gonna take this out and take this off. This is a very tiny screw, so I'm afraid, yeah. So this is essentially just a cover. I'm gonna put these into this lid because we actually don't need that. And I'm gonna take this out. I'm hoping that there might be a manual or something, but it doesn't look like there is one. There's some papers in here, but I'm not sure if this is a manual. Oh yeah, it is. So yeah, so it's supposed to look like that. You have to, yes, do exactly what my guess was. You essentially replace it and then you hook the cable in. I'm sure that when we assemble this, we're gonna figure out why this is actually necessary. So we're gonna put this on, and it comes with its own screw, so there's no need for the original Sony screw. Now, does it supposed to go on top or? Okay, that's hard to kind of guess where it goes, but I'm guessing it goes like that. Yes, yes. Okay, so it was a little tricky to line it up, but it is actually doing its job. And now you can hook this in. Oh, so it's actually a much tighter bend than I thought. I thought it was going to be like out here or something, but no, this is actually a very, very tight bend for this thing to go. So now we have a partially assembled monitor. And then there's 3 pieces, but this one is already assembled. So if you look at this bracket, this is an optional bracket that I think, yeah, so let me extend this. Because what we're doing here, and why we're doing this, is we're extending this part where the original monitor mount was, this plastic one. It only gives you this amount of adjustment. So you literally have like, just this like 1 inch where you can like set the monitor to go. But if you attach this arm to the top of this, with this one screw right here, and then this screw will grab into the top plate as a bracket to give it some strength. So let me see if I can do this while I'm talking, because this is actually not that easy, but if I could line it up and then start doing this and then line it up. Then I might actually be, oh yeah, I just had to get each of them in slightly, and then it will like do its thing. So what this will do is essentially will make the top handle a little bit longer with this NATO rail on the front. And yeah, so that's tight, and it does give a little bit strength to this. And then this way you can also adjust where you want your monitor, because this thing is essentially a NATO rail, but you can make it go further out. So hopefully you can see it, that like this goes way further than this original one was that was supposed to be here. So when you're doing like shoulder rig stuff, you can actually put this way further out. And I mean, this is an expensive accessory, so I probably wouldn't have bought it myself for the original price of it. But since I was able to get this bundle, I am happy to try it out. Now, this part is the one that's actually a little bit complicated. So the way that this works is you have to attach this to the NATO rail. And I'm not sure if this is the right way. Like, I don't know if this knob should be facing this way or it should be facing the other way. As in, do I do it this way? Because if I turn this back, it should clear, and it does clear. And then I already played with this a little bit earlier. This big orange knob is essentially tightened so you can't rotate the monitor. If you loosen it, it will give you the ability to do this, to rotate like 20, like 360 degrees, and then you can like lock it down if you don't want it to move. And then this lets you adjust where the monitor sits. It has millimeter threads, so I'm guessing that this probably should be facing backwards and then this way. And then it says stow on top, so I'm assuming that, oh, so this goes on here. Okay, this is very, very interesting. So it says stow. Okay, but then how do you, so you're supposed to like open it this way and then tighten this down with this bottom bracket thing? I guess so. I guess maybe that's what it is. It's just gonna give it a little bit of a push. Yeah, so I'm essentially fixing the screen to not have any kind of rotation from the original Sony bracket. So I have a feeling that that Sony bracket is non-removable, this one, which is why we have to keep it. And the way that the cable is now, it's gonna have enough slack to go around. And so in this configuration, it looks like I can like move this out far and then rotate. So if I do it this way, I can rotate the screen to this way, and I can also do it probably to move it in and out. So yeah, so this is the most as it goes in, which is almost all the way in, and then it's still, you can still rotate it up and down, and even, yeah, you can even rotate it with this, so you can go higher and lower. And then the question is, does the cable actually reach the back? Because now you have to route it through all of these pieces to get into this plug, which it looks like it will go, yeah. And I can run it through this bracket that we just installed. So it is plugged in, and it has a weather seal rubber cap, and it goes through this. There is a little bit of a clearance issue here, but it technically does kind of fit nicely in there. And then it goes neatly underneath, which I'm probably going to do in the inside one. So I know it's hard to see, but I'm going to show you. So there's two, one on the bottom and one on the front, but I want to use the front for the mic, and probably the same here. So I'm going to go and just do it in the inside one. And yes, that actually does clear it very nicely. So now I have this option, and if I want to, I think I should be able to rotate this totally back while also rotating the screen. Oh yeah. Now, okay, so this does require some actual practice to know which way you want to actually go, but I can lock down the back side, and actually I can lower it down too. So if I want to do a little bit of an angle like this, I can kind of keep this on the low side to keep this from sticking out too much, because it is a little bit, you know, sticking out. So, and if this one, this orange knob, if I tighten that down, then this becomes really solid. And I think I have to undo this to stow it. Yeah, that's exactly how it works. And then you put it back, and then you tighten it down to then give you just a normal rotation. Now I do have to get some wipes because the screen is obviously a little messed up. And I think this is still attachable, although I'm not 100% sure, because it does feel like it is. No, it is working. Yeah, it is not blocking it, which I'm surprised. So this still works. You can still correctly attach the screen shade to this and not having to use this weird plastic thing. I'm pretty sure this is the same thing from an old FS5 too. And I had to replace that on the FS5 II through a small rig one because this plastic one was awful. So this is the only thing that's kind of annoying, that this knob is here, but the actual thing itself is actually good. So yeah, so I can move it around. I can have a nice angle looking up. If I want to, I can look to me, and if I'm operating, you know, from like waist, I can face it up and still see the camera or the screen. But if I'm sitting behind the camera, I can just tilt it down, and I can also drop it down a little bit to get it a little bit lower to the controls. So I think this is a pretty good accessory. It does make the camera a little beefy, but that is not an issue. So I think I like this. I'm gonna grab a microphone. This is the microphone that I usually use on my FX3. But for now, we're gonna install it on this. It is the same mount, so I have to use this rubber tube extension, and then that should make it tight enough. If it's not, I can still add some gaff tape. And I'm using this very, very short cable matters, I think, XLR cable, because there isn't really any like length where you have to go with this, and I'm trying to hide the mic cable as much as possible, then inserting into port number 1. So I may have to play with this a little bit because it doesn't seem to have a very nice spot to live on. So what I may actually have to do is replace and change out the monitor with the XLR, so they go on top of each other, giving itself a little bit of a hold like this. Yeah, this may work. Yeah, I can probably do that. And then we should be able to just put the lens on, because I'm not going to use this wooden camera base plate, which does look really good. It is machined well, and it would sit like this. We have the option to lift up the V-mount and actually drop in one of the Sony batteries. So let's go with the big boy. And I can still totally close this down. As you can see, it is absolutely flat. It does not extend out, because this clears the battery right there. So there's still a tiny space there. So now I should be able to add my V-mount. And if we want to go ahead and add the 2470 back, we're going to go ahead and click this on. Yeah, and it's getting together. Now, with everything installed, it is definitely back heavy now. I can feel that. So I either may just go ahead and do the smaller battery in there, or not even use the battery in there. But let me get the top, or actually the grip. It does need to be plugged in first. I know you can't see this one. Yeah, so here is pretty much the final build, except for one thing, which is a monitor. So I have options. I can use my Ninja 5s that I used with the A7S III all the time, or I have an very old small rig SDI monitor from probably 2018 or 19 that is still in good condition because I haven't really used it. This is, I don't even know what it's called. They don't make these anymore, and everybody kind of wants one. So I have this option to put this in this cold shoe, and I did actually measure this earlier, and it did fit. So if I put it there, it does work. The only kind of issue is that it does touch the shock mount. So the shock mount actually is not really a shock mount. It's a solid mount because it touches the bracket. But I can run and actually hook up the SDI cable and run it around. And if I want to, I can have a clean image SDI picture on top of the camera. This might be too long of an SDI cable for this. And it actually is. So I will have to get probably a shorter one just for this. So let me see if I connect it. Let me see if I can get a picture on the first try. Don't look at this cable, it is ugly. So I'm gonna take the lens cap off and I'm gonna try to face it. So if we turn this on and look at this, and I have to get a battery for that camera monitor because I don't have a D-tap for that one set up yet. So let me just disconnect this first. So I'm not sure, I'm gonna take this off because it's probably easier to see. So you can see that the camera is actually on and it shows a picture of the box. There's no picture on the SDI, so I'm gonna go ahead and now hook it up. And yes, you're always supposed to power the monitor first before you plug in the SDI cable to make sure you don't cause a short and burn out your SDI port. And yeah, it is working. So now I have a fully built up Sony FX6 that is ready to shoot with two 320 gig cards. This one obviously has all the info display pieces here and the histogram and all that. And then this one just has a clean image where you can obviously do, you can do histogram and focus peaking here too if you want to. And it is also already displaying the LUT. So, and I can also zoom in and out with the 2470. I've already played with some of the settings, and this is all base ISO. And if I hold it, it is beefy, but it does feel pretty ergonomic in the hand. And with the V-mount being attached, I can use it to just have another point touching my body and stabilizing the camera as I'm using it. And all the controls are also on the top here. So if you're shooting this way, I would probably take off this handle altogether because it doesn't really add to the build. If you are shooting, let's say, more of an EVF kind of look, I would definitely do it, but then it's almost like a shoulder rig where you have to put it on your shoulder and just have it sit on the battery here and then tilt this down so you can actually see it. Then I would definitely use the right side handle, but then this monitor is also kind of useless on the top, so you have to rearrange your rig depending on how you're shooting. If it's a tripod kind of shooting, where you're just shooting interviews and stuff, this is probably perfectly fine because you are most likely just going to lock it down, set your settings, but you still want to monitor with the LUT on top, which is why this monitor, I think it's still a really good monitor. And in that case, you could mount this back here and use some type of a cold shoe attachment, 1/4-20, to move the monitor from here, but then it's going to be harder to grab the top handle, so you are going to have some trade-offs. So let me take this off just for the feel and look, because yeah, this also looks really good. Here I've got the official Tentacle Sync 290-degree BNC. I'm not sure if the 90 degree is the right way to go, but that's what I ordered beforehand because I know that in here, if you look at it, the straight one definitely has space, and I wasn't sure if that's going to be the case or not, but because we're going in with the TC, and I don't think I'm ever going to actually unplug this, this cable is, yeah, it's rotatable all the way across. So if I attach this once, I can pretty much just keep this on forever and figure out a way on how to route the cable to get this to the Tentacle Sync timecode box. And the timecode box is going to be attached to here with some double-sided tape or Velcro solution. I've also seen people adding it back here with one of the mounts because there is a 1/4-20, and you can buy a mounting plate, which is like a metal, like quick release plate, and just put it right there. And I may go do that because that's actually not bad. It does not affect the handle as much, and there isn't really any other place where I think I can safely put this. The only option, the other option is I take the smaller battery, and if I take the smaller battery, I should be able to attach it with Velcro to the front of it and then have it sandwiched here in between the battery plate and the actual battery. That's the only other option. So if I do that, I can essentially take out this battery, put this one in, click it in, and there is tons of space there. So if I take this and maybe even I can wrap the cable a little bit up, I should be able to put this in here with Velcro and then have the V-mount come down to the minimum position. So yeah, I think that will work. That will 100% work, and it will fit into this little slot. Actually, it actually fits way too perfectly. Like, I'm not sure if I can show this correctly, but it's in there, and I like that it's like totally hidden. So I can add some Velcro to that battery and just run the cable, maybe do a loop to nicely fit here, and just have the Tentacle Sync permanently live in this case. And if I keep the battery connection on the bottom,
then I should be able to even plug in a charging cable if I have to charge it on camera, and just run it from the top of this V-mount battery, because it does have standard USB or USB-C out, so it should be easy to just wrap that in. So this is the build for now. Anyway, thanks for watching my first ever FX6 video, because this is literally the first time I've ever touched a camera, apart from the time when I was meeting with the guy who sold this to me and tested it on the spot in a small cafe. So I am going to spend a lot of time with this. I still have to learn the menus and program all the settings and stuff to match my FX3 and what I usually shoot with and my workflow. So there's still a lot to do on this, including updating the firmware and stuff like that. I'll be back with another FX6 video shortly.